Okay, it's 7:30, so we'll call the meeting to order. First thing is opportunity to hear residents' comments. Hi, Marty.
Hi, Marty Langwood, Chestnut Street, just inquiring about streetlights on the corner of my house. Is there any chance it could be installed before Halloween?
No.
I don't think we have any streetlights
I don't
in
think
stock.
we have any in stock.
No, that's definitely no chance of.
All right, because I'm worried about kids tripping on my steps because it's so dark in that corner.
All right.
And Marty, just to give some color, it takes a little while to get the lights in once we order them, and I think we're still working on trying to order some to stock up on lights so we have some extras. But at the time, right now, we don't have any extras to just put on the pole.
I'll have my husband stand up there with a torch.
It'll add to the Halloween
Statue
ambiance.
of Liberty costume.
There you go. Okay, any other resident comments? Okay, you're up. Officers report.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Nick Pacerno, I'm one of the village police officers. Thanks for having me tonight. So I actually have some few notes to go over. So, we don't remember about 6 weeks ago, Commander Gagan came and spoke to everybody about some of the crime issues we've had here recently, and heard a lot of the complaints about like traffic issues and things like that. So I wanted to kind of give a general update as to what's going on in kind of 3 different phases, and at the same time I'll explain why it's important to kind of balance wearing both my hats of being your employee in the village, but also being a police executive. So those roles aren't always mutually exclusive to each other. So I'll start with the burglaries that happened down here at the pharmacy and the deli and the market. This is not related to the robbery that happened. In technical terms, the robbery is the act against a person, the burglaries are when they're broken into. I think Commander Gagan mentioned when he was here that we had some suspects in mind for those crimes. So those people have been arrested. Where it becomes tricky is when we will only charge somebody with a crime when we know we have probable cause and more closer to beyond reasonable doubt level of proof that they did the crime. So we haven't charged them with that crime, and I don't anticipate us actually charging them with that crime. They've been charged with other crimes that are like it. We're very confident that they're the ones who did it, but the level of proof needed to actually charge them, we just don't have that level of proof. And I don't think there's any, without giving away too much insider information, I don't think we're going to get to that level of field proof. These cases are kind of, unless you have a statement, evidence, something directly putting in there at the time of the crime, the video is not sufficient.
Is the video not sufficient because it's not clear enough?
I don't know that for a fact. If I didn't know it, I probably couldn't share it. But if they could charge them with this, they would. But it doesn't look like they anticipate having enough evidence to actually charge them from a kind of insider baseball perspective. The penalty, they wouldn't see significantly more jail time if they were charged with 3 crimes versus 9 versus 12. I mean, they don't really compound upon each other. I mean, you can charge to that level, but we charge someone with 50 theft from autos and the penalty is for 6 months. They're not going to get 25 years in jail. They're going to get 6 months. It's just the way it works. So if somebody's charged with doing like 9 different burglaries, they're going to be sentenced as though they did one a little bit more than that. So they're not going to push a case if they don't have sufficient probable cause to charge. That's not how we operate. So I think as far as the department's concerned, we're looking at this as a closed case because we're very confident we made the arrest. But don't anticipate seeing like, hey, these 2 people were arrested for those burglaries. Okay. Any questions on that piece before we move on? Mm-hmm. All right. Next was James reached out to me earlier, I think it was last week, earlier this week, about commercial vehicle issues. I guess there's been an increase in trucks driving through town during the day. So I spoke to our commercial motor vehicle unit. We actually have a group of officers who their sole job is commercial vehicle enforcement. There are certain things with a truck that like a police officer like me doesn't have the ability to enforce. Things like there's certain for Federal Motor Carrier Safety Act regulations that they have the ability to enforce that we don't. And they're experts in their field. They're going to spend some time next week and the week after down here doing commercial vehicle enforcement. And if you'll see them, you recognize them because they don't drive normal police cars. They drive like pickup trucks. So, because they have scales in there and they have like like tools to check safety things. So you might see them over the next couple weeks doing some enforcement on Brookville Road. Third was the issue with
Crossing guard.
so, okay, that's my fourth one.
Okay.
My last one. Next was traffic enforcement on Brookville Road. Commander Gagan mentioned he was going to pass along to his traffic complaint officer that all the village's complaints on that issue. So they have a dedicated traffic enforcement officer, and that his job is to go to areas where there are community complaints, and he basically has a running tally of where he goes. So he'll go here. I don't know what place he would go to, but like maybe there's a neighborhood in Kensington he hits for a couple hours a week. So he's added this to his permanent rotation of places that he will hit during his work hours, during his day hours.
What does that mean, Nick? Like we want him to come here and issue tickets for people who are violating.
So he will.
stuff.
So he does.
Okay.
But he has he has many places that have the same expectation of him. So
Sure.
when he is here, he does write tickets. He does.
It's not an observation position. This is
No,
actual
he writes
enforcement.
citations. Yeah.
Okay.
What he noticed was, and what most of his citations were for the week, wasn't so much for stopping at the stop sign. He noticed actually a lot of distracted drivers, and what he kind of relayed was that traffic backs so much in the morning at Taylor Street that people are just on their phone while they're like kind of rolling through. So they're going like 5 miles an hour, kind of moving along, and they're like on their phone, driving with their knees because they're going so slow back to the traffic. So he made a lot of enforcement for that act.
Could we get data on that? And then also for your next update, will you maybe get a write-up to put in the newsletter about distracted driving?
Yeah, I'll do right for the distracted driving. As far as data goes, I don't know if there's a way we collect data for enforcement at a specific location. I'll look into it. I don't know if we collect that data.
Okay, fair.
But as far as the distracted driving thing, I can do that.
Okay.
So that's that. So final would be the crossing guards. And this is where I kind of wear both my hats for a little bit. So I spoke to the department. So you can hire a crossing guard, caveat, but they're only available for hire on a extra level basis when they're not posted at a school crossing. So like a church can hire them on a weekend, or a fair can hire them on a weekend because school's not in session, but the times when they're doing enforcement activity, they only have enough crossing guards to cover the posts that they have for the schools, and a few backfills for like sick leave and things like that. So they don't have an extra crossing guard that you could hire to post at that location. The other question that was brought up, and I was suggested potentially would be, would the village then pay to hire a crossing guard? So actually say, we will commit to paying a crossing guard cost over a period of time, and the department would then hire a crossing guard and post them here. The cost of a crossing guard, so it would be all inclusive. So it would be the cost for salary, the cost for benefits, equipment. So it would be a zero-sum increase to the county, would be between $30,000 and $40,000 for the year.
For one guard.
One crossing guard.
And that would be for both morning and afternoon.
That'd be for, yeah, that'd be for morning and afternoon. But there's some additional hurdles with that, because even though you're paying for it, it'd be a budgeted line item. So the department would then have to go to county council to have a full-time equivalent position added to the crossing guard cadre. So we would actually have to get a blessing from the county council to approve that line item. That's something we've never done before as a department. And that's where it kind of gets into my other hat of being a police executive. If the department came to me and asked me, is this smart policy for a department to do, I'd have to say no. Now, I'll kind of explain why. Well, give a couple of reasons. One, I don't know if as a policy matter the department wants to allow a jurisdiction that has the finances to pay for something that we're not able to provide in other parts of the county. So I went to our school bus people, and I know that every violation is right to a school bus. But one of the things we do have is that school bus crossings, so you guys may not know this now. If you do, this is a good warning. When the stop arm leaves the school bus has cameras on the side that do enforcement. Every single bus in Montgomery County has a stop arm camera, and they have had them since like mid-2019. So I had them pull the data for Brookville Road for the beginning of the program. The most the location, and this we can do GPS wise because the bus ties the GPS ticket to the ticket to the GPS location. So your most serious intersection for terms of overall traffic tickets issued on a school bus for violating the stop arm is actually at Shepherd Street. You've had 16 since
16.
December of 2018. You've had 16 people not stop for the arm as it goes by. That's the most. Brooklyn and Woodbine had the next lowest. I think this was 10 by my count. Taylor has had 3, and Thornapple has had 4 since the beginning of the program.
What about Raymond?
Sorry, four people have been issued citations, automated citations, for going through the stop arm.
What about Raymond?
2, 3. There've been 3 at Raymond. And it's about, I've been working on a project at work involving this. We are about 80% violating. So about 80 times when a violation is captured, we have enough evidence from that camera to be able to write a ticket. Sometimes the ticket's blurry, there's something right in the camera, so it's about 80% of the violation. So you can probably add an equivalent of 1.2 factor to that to get the overall number of violators who have blown through a school bus at that time. One of the reasons why I think Shepherd is going to be higher is there's no stop sign. People are already stopping, in theory, for the stop sign at Taylor and at Raymond and the other locations. Shepherd is an open space, so, and what you generally see, it's kind of like a red light. The violations generally happen when the arm hits and then the car comes through right as like the kind of are selling to each other. So in terms of comparison, so that's since the initiation of the program, those citation numbers. The 1400 block of East-West Highway in that same period of time has had 1,513 violations. Whoa. 8,800 block of Colesville Roads had 1,464. A location on Frederick Road had 917. 5100 block of River Road has 772, and Piney Branch Road has 621. Now, yeah, those are going to be maybe wider highways. There may not be a barrier in the middle, more vehicle traffic. But if we were to agree to bring on a crossing guard at that location because the jurisdiction can pay for it, why doesn't these other jurisdictions have that ability to pay to get a crossing guard? Not even that it's not your concern with how they spend their money in those areas, but from an department point of view, department policy point of view, if the chief were to come to me and ask if this makes sense for department policy, I'd have to tell him no. So then what's next? What's your other option, right? So the only other option I could think of, and this is something that, so the other option you would have is if you wanted to, instead of hiring a crossing guard, to hire a police officer to sit there, you can do that. That's another option. Because we don't have, since we're a 24/7 operation, you would have officers who either come off midnight shift, could come and work. Like, it's you don't have the same logistical issues of hiring a police officer to use a crossing guard.
So you're saying do another MOU, another officer, more hours, similar to what we've done with you guys?
It would actually, in order to get the level of filling you would want, you'd probably need between 5 and 8 officers. Because you need to, now, they wouldn't all be working at the same time.
Right.
You'd have a morning shift and an evening shift.
Right.
But
To get the coverage.
you have to be able to get coverage. You're gonna want somebody there every single day.
Right.
I kind of costed out and just doing some quick math at a rate that I think would entice people to actually do the work. Because you're,
Extending their day. Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons why Mike and I work here, we have flexibility in our hours. We couldn't do it. It's right in the middle of, both those shifts are in the middle of both of our work days, so we can't do it. And able to, you're only gonna be hiring somebody for like 2 hours a day. So in order to actually pay somebody what they would be worth to either stay awake from a midnight shift and do it, come in from Germantown, Damascus, Frederick, where they live, would require a wage to entice someone to do that. It's looking like it'd probably cost between $25,000 and $30,000.
Good.
And so in my view, that's the
There are
alternative.
choices.
Right. I mean, I said as far as the crossing guard goes, you wouldn't get one. You wouldn't be able to get one there if the county agreed to do it. It would take a year plus to implement.
And you're saying that, given the other figures you cited, it would be an unlikely priority.
If I'm asked where's the need for additional
Right.
crossing guard, I'm going to be paying for it. It's going to be
Yeah.
some other location. It's just the again, like one thing you pay me for is the truth and honesty, and I can't lie to you guys.
Sure.
If I'm asked by the chief of police, I'm not going to be able to say, yeah,
Yeah.
put it down here. when you have 16 citations that are covering
Right.
it, you know?
Yeah.
And the intersection you want coverage at, there's 5 in, 18 months.
Shepherd.
Hmm.
Good data.
Okay.
So that's
helpful.
that's numbers.
Very, very useful.
So if that's something, so if that's something you want to explore, so as far as, there's a lot of logistics, so there's logistical issues that come with hiring police officers to work that position. If that's something you guys want to explore, I can kind of lay out what that would entail, because you have a scheduling issue, it's a lot more than Mike and I just working
Right.
when we're available and communicating
Right.
to us. You're gonna have somebody overseeing the program, scheduling hours, making sure people are being backfilled in. There's a cost of administration.
Administrative cost.
So, if that's something you guys decide you want to explore, let me know and I can walk you through how I think that would work. I also know there was discussion about potentially being split amongst jurisdictions, because of where that kind of meets. And that's something probably Ron would have to help you with as far as setting up the MOU and cost sharing and who pays and who the employer is and all that stuff. So there's that certainly logistics goes along with it. Or it can help.
Thank you.
I ranted for a while. Do you have any questions?
I just want all the data that you gave us so we can write up.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Committee updates. And/or tree supervisor. We got several folks. So who wants to go first? Marty, she's ready.
And a short report this month. The official vacancy notice was posted on Function Contact on Tuesday, September 24th. Looks like this. And the staff was very helpful. They mailed it out to every household in the village the next day. And so people got not only the posting, but the hard copy. It also arrived by Friday, this is September 27th, most people have received it. It's also included in the village newspaper on October 3rd, and in the Friday news you can use that James has started putting out every Friday, including tomorrow. We have 2 residents who submitted a statement of interest so far. Due date was coming Monday, October 21st. If you know anyone who might be interested, by all means encourage them, right? The list is not limited to 3 people. We can have 5 or 6 or 10, however many are interested.
We have some candidates sitting here.
I was gonna
No?
say, I brought copies of the information. Are you interested? Are you interested?
I'll take it.
There you go, good for you. Keith?
I've already got somebody in my household, as you know.
I know. Anyway, we are continuing, and I think that we'll be able to provide the council with some very well-qualified residents who have stepped up interested to do this. Let's see, due date is Monday. The committee will be meeting at 3 p.m. this Sunday, October 20th, at Lauren Deal's house, 7309 Delfield. Open public meeting, you're all welcome. And Susan Faddick has agreed to be our council liaison again this year. Susan, thanks, we always love having you. And the rest of you can come too if you want. We'll probably have food and kids. Kids are invited. And I just want to thank the staff for their help with the distribution of these notices, the meeting notice, the vacancy notice. And I want to thank Ron Bolt for giving us a briefing on the updates to the open meetings regulation at 7 today. It was very helpful to the committee here. And I want to thank Ron for doing that, because we want to mind our P's and Q's. You know, we are meticulously thorough. What did somebody call us? Obsessively fair and thorough, which we do try to live up to. So we're clean and thorough on this as well. So thank you all. Any questions?
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay. Keith, you want to do next? Are you doing the CEC today, or no?
What about the weather?
Oh, the weather. Oh.
Or all of the above?
Can we please talk about the winter and what should we expect?
Paula Goldberg had asked me about the drought, and, what we had, yesterday was not a drought buster. We've got, a lot more rain before we can break this drought. But, not to worry, because the subsoil moisture, the water tables are very high because of all the rain we've previously had over the last couple of years and earlier this summer. It's the shallow rooted trees that, might have just been planted or, were planted within the last year that you need to be concerned about. Small vegetation, grass, etc. But not to worry really, because we're not in any serious problem as far as the water tables are concerned. They're in great shape. As far as the winter's concerned, right now it looks very mild with below normal snowfall. So that's the good
Below
news.
normal.
That's the preliminary. I'll have something more definitive for you next meeting. But we're good right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Paula?
A report from the tree committee. Paul Wolf, I spoke with Paul a couple of weeks ago about his fall plans for our right-of-way trees. And he's going to be focusing on elevating the lower limbs on trees on Taylor and Turner Street for safety reasons. Paul and I are going out tomorrow morning to inspect our neighborhood trees, and we may have a little bit more activity than we anticipated a few days ago because of our high winds for the past couple of days. I don't know if the office has received any complaints about any tree damage
And Jane, anything coming in?
during the
No,
nor'easter?
good,
Okay.
Good.
Well, I was gonna say knock on wood, but it's a very bad pun. We'll be sending out an announcement about the canopy tree planting program in the next newsletter, or perhaps a little bit sooner, because Paul is pushing against a deadline for ordering trees, which would be planted in early December. So far, we have one potential applicant on Bradley Lane at 3411 Bradley Lane. And the other thing to put in our notes is that over the past several weeks, we've lost 4 very old white oaks on Bradley Lane and on Quincy. And it is
Not right-of-way trees.
Sorry?
No, I just want to clarify, they're not right-of-way trees.
They are not right-of-way trees, they are canopy trees. So there is a syndrome that's been identified by folks at the University of Maryland who characterize it as a white oak sudden death sort of syndrome. That is basically a root rot that affects older white oaks, established white oaks. And unfortunately, the canopy trees that we most recently lost were well over 100 years old, and was a neighborhood tragedy. So that's it, unless you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything? Nope. Okay, so the next thing, actions on the meeting minutes. So we just wanted to kind of memorialize here that per our council and as we sent out last week, we're gonna try and get our meeting minutes out sooner. That means between meetings. It is an administrative function, therefore we are not legislating if we review and approve them via email. And the goal for the council is to get them out to the residents sooner. So if we can get them out a couple weeks after our monthly meeting, then residents have, 2 weeks before the next monthly meeting. They'll have them in their hands, they'll be up on the website. The idea is also that the minutes will be shorter, and then we'll have an appendix with all of the agenda and materials that are already sent out before the meetings. We're gonna put all that in the back. So it's all there. What's changing is just that we're gonna try and get them out sooner to people, which I kind of think is actually more in line with the intent of the Open Meeting Act than waiting a full month. Building administrator, Doug.
A few things to go over. At 3520 Bradley, the ramp has been installed that was recently granted a variance. I contacted the applicant because their permit expires on November 2nd, and she said that she plans on having everything wrapped up and county approval in 2 weeks, so they won't need to extend that permit hopefully. On 7204 Chestnut, we requested a wall check, which surveyor goes out and tells us what the setback is for the additions on the property line. They submitted a wall check, but the wall check didn't show any of the additions that they were granted a variance for. So I'm not sure what they provided us with except a piece of paper. So I sent it back to them and said, show the setbacks from the variances, and I'm still waiting for that. 7210 Chestnut, on Tuesday, they were granted an extension on their permit because it expired on the 11th.
They applied for an extension, correct?
Excuse me?
They applied for one and it was granted?
They applied for it and it was granted.
Okay.
So they have till October 2020 to finish up. He said he only needs 2-3 more months on that one. And the rest of the construction's going along normally. We have identified 2 parking situations where it appears residents are parking within 15 feet of a fire hydrant, and we've contacted the police department I know one car has been ticketed, so Wayne and I are monitoring that every day to make sure that they comply. And any questions?
Let us know if you have anything from State Highway on the ponding.
They're looking at it, but
Okay. If we need to send a letter.
Unknown caller.
Next is the charter amendment regarding council vacancies. I don't know.
So did you
what is
move
the-
on any more for the AUD and
This was
everything
the
else?
amendment that was recommended by the
Probably not.
Right,
elections committee
Yeah.
and the
Yeah,
change.
I have one question on that.
I'll call you tomorrow if I need
It says that
nothing to
Oh.
the one I just gave.
where am I looking here?
With the underlines.
Yes.
Oh, no, that's not the one. Sorry, never mind.
Okay.
Okay, so this one is amending the charter of the village to appoint a replacement, if you will, council member for the
Yeah.
remainder of the term that is open, rather than for the remainder of the year,
Till the next election.
until the next election. So it actually helps us in this current situation that we're in, so that we don't have 4 seats open at the next election. We'd rather stick at 3 to 2 to ensure that there's enough interest from residents, and there's significant competition every year for the positions.
So can I get a motion to introduce charter
No,
amendment?
was this introduced last?
We talked
No.
about
It
it.
was not.
Oh,
I will,
okay.
a motion to introduce charter amendment 2019-1.
Is there a second?
second.
I will
All in
vote-
favor?
I will vote in favor.
Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, so Ron, we will have 30 days between now and the
Oh.
next meeting. So if residents have a desire to comment, we'll have a hearing, correct?
Yes, at the next meeting, there'll be a hearing, and it'll presumably be adopted. Then, according to state law, we need to publish notice of the amendment in a newspaper of general circulation, post notice here in the village hall, and the resolution then becomes effective if there's no petition for referendum submitted by the residents.
A single petition for referendum?
It has to be signed by 25% of the qualified voters
Okay,
in order to trigger a special election on the charter amendment.
all right,
Good.
And I'll work with James to get the appropriate notice published in the newspaper.
thank you. Next is introduction of a resolution regarding the fee permit schedule. Arthur?
Yeah, I didn't understand. These are all new fees or what? I didn't,
I can cover that,
Yeah.
yeah, so,
in fact, there's a date on here of 2007.
so that's when the schedule was last adopted, and in 2007, we added a fee for a permit amendment. And it recently came to light that it wasn't clear to some folks what the fee was for an extension of a permit. And I looked at the legislative history and meeting minutes, and it is pretty clear that the council intended an extension to be treated like an amendment, and therefore the fee to be 50% of the original permit fee. So this resolution will just amend the schedule of fees to add the word "or extension" after amendment, just to make it clear.
That's the reason.
Yes.
Okay.
Since we're talking about fees, and the fees have stayed the same for the last 12 and a half years, I'm wondering if it's time to look at the level of fees?
Well, we had the bond, I think we did change the fees.
Have we?
I recall, yeah, on the next page, the bonds are different from the fees, which are on the next page. It says 2012, but I'm sure that we had in 2013.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, 2007 was the bonds,
The
the last
bond.
update to the bonds. Yes, and then June of
2013.
2017 was the last update to the permit fees.
Okay, right. I thought we had changed that.
Okay. And just for everyone, the reason when there's an extension that there's also a fee is because the staff have been monitoring the permit every day for the year, when construction starts, when construction slows, when it stops, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're still spending village funds for them to go out and monitor progress. So fees are set on what it looks like it would cost for a year. If we go past a year, it requires additional vigilance, so. Okay, so Arthur, are you introducing?
Yes, I will introduce this change in the fees, particularly the bond required. Do we have a new number on this? Or,
2019.
Yes, the resolution number?
yeah.
Okay, so it'll be here.
Oh, well, here it is, 2019-10-1.
So if we have multiple variances on a permit, do we charge separate fees for that?
We do not. There's one fee for one variance application, regardless of how many different variances you request in the same application.
So my recommendation would be to actually change that,
To add.
for each additional instance of a variance, a smaller fee, because that's what we've seen in the past.
But we don't, that's not in this.
That's not in this, but I'm recommending
Oh, okay.
making a change to this. Because if there's a house that's being constructed or amended and there's 5 different variances, there's a much higher cost to the village to review that, to negotiate.
5
the
variances at a single time.
Yes.
You're not discussing subsequent variances.
Correct.
Okay.
We've seen that,
Yes.
Yeah.
so that's what
Yes.
I'm talking about. It's one thing to amend one thing, and that's hopefully straightforward, but if you're considering it holistically, then it's much more complicated and it does take a lot more time, so.
So just parliamentary process. Arthur moves.
Okay, let's move this
So Katya
forward,
wants
and
to
then we will-
amend it.
Mhm.
Well,
Katya's
not to
prop-
amend it, it's a different part of the permit,
She's
variance
adding it as
fees.
an amendment.
So you've made a motion, and
Yeah.
it's your motion. You can accept Katya's recommendation as a friendly amendment, and your motion can stand. Or you can refuse it, and then we have to dispose of your motion before moving on to Katya's suggestion.
Okay, let's say I didn't,
Do you accept her friendly amendment?
yes, it seems quite friendly.
Okay, but I guess we need some numbers. So right
Yeah.
now, the fee is $1,500 for a variance application. We do have a sliding scale for regular permits based on floor area. But maybe for variances, we could say $1,500, as we currently do, plus an additional X dollars for each variance requested within the same application. Do you have a number in mind? What that?
What's the sliding scale on the other?
$250.
What's the?
Based on floor area. After you go over 250 square feet for an addition, the fee goes up another $250. I'm sorry, another $1 per square foot over 250 square feet. By other way of example, a right-of-way agreement, the fee is $100. I'm thinking $250
Yeah.
might be a good amount because
Yeah, right.
That's where
you,
my
you,
gut
you
wants
think
to.
that
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
another hour of Doug's
Yeah.
time plus
And
another.
so the
consideration.
example of
Plus
5
your time.
Right, I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Plus staff.
So maybe 500?
maybe 500.
And I'd say 250 per, because it's like
Per
a side
variance,
setback,
yeah.
a back setback, a porch, each one 250. How about the one that we had was like three variances
Five.
there? 5, they were?
Five.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And the
just,
amount of time that we were
Yeah.
It's a lot.
was a lot.
so just to be clear, the initial variance fee is
It's
what?
1,500.
And we're going to now amend that for each vacancy,
Each
more than
additional.
one,
Additional
each
variance.
Additional
even if it's in
variance.
a single application.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Is 250 more.
right,
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good.
So Arthur, you,
Yes, I accept the friendly amendment.
Okay.
So
Is
now
there
we
a
need a
second to
second.
the motion?
to the motion.
I
I
will
would
second.
second that friendly amendment.
Okay, all in
And could we
favor?
call it congenial?
So
All
this-
okay. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone
All right, so
opposed?
that's just a motion to introduce. There'll be a public hearing on the resolution next month.
Yes.
Okay, moving on.
All right, next, oaths and conflicts of interest disclosure policy. Okay, So this year, we actually had a couple of folks come in. We have a new manager, we got some new folks on committees, and the question arose, you know, who needs to take the oath of office? Who needs to sign the conflicts of interest forms? We've got state law to comply with for some folks, elected officials, staff, other with fiduciary responsibilities. We've got best practices. We have our elections committee policy that the ethics committee wrote an oath form. So we just decided to kind of document, put it in as, you know, best practices. We're required to do this. Again, some of us by state law, others by policy. Let's make it clear for everyone, especially the conflict of interest forms. It's good policy for folks who have
Right.
any sort of responsibility for recommending vendors to sign a conflict of interest form. And that anything we would take in, the office would hold the records for pursuant to the records retention policy, and then our ethics committee chairman would have a copy of all of those documents as well, electronically. Anything else to add?
No, I would just say that, you know, in my view, it's always good to have everybody sign a conflict of interest policy. Anything that gives you pause for thought is always worthwhile, even with the best of intentions.
For the record, can you introduce yourself?
Yes. My apologies. Todd Mann, I'm chairing the ethics committee.
Ethics.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. So I'm very much in favor of spreading out those who sign the conflict of interest policy.
Thanks.
And then just a comment on the oath of office. I know in my organization, I run 501c3s. In my organization, regardless of whether somebody's midterm or what, every year I ask people to kind of be reinstalled and sign an oath and say the oath. And there's just a level of kind of gravitas and seriousness. It reminds people that they do have that kind of responsibility, and because it's very easy to kind of just coast. So it's always worth doing. So I also had suggested to Tiffany that be prevalent throughout as well.
Okay,
Thank you very much. We have a couple questions.
Yeah, having run a nonprofit organization, we had all of our board members and employees complete criminal activity forms. Do you recommend that as well?
Criminal?
Criminal activity,
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
So that someone would have to say whether or not they had anything pending for the past 3 years.
I've never done that at all. I mean, when hiring staff, I mean, you always want to do a background check certainly, but I haven't.
A background check that you pay for?
No, I've you know, when I hire staff, I always, you know, if it, based on their level and access to financial things, I will do a background check. But for just, you know, people in these offices, I don't see it as necessary to do.
And I have a question about that. We have in our contracts a clause about people not having a criminal conviction or something. How, I'm wondering how legal that is, whether we're discriminating on people's past if they've been convicted and served prison time.
Well, it's actually a requirement of state law.
It is?
Yes, for any state contract,
Hmm.
including the contracts for political subdivisions of the state, which we are
Yeah.
as a village. We have to have our contractors submit affidavits attesting that they haven't been convicted of certain crimes, haven't been convicted of inappropriate procurement practices, and haven't been disbarred. That's a requirement of state law.
There is a movement where I thought you were headed, a
Yeah.
movement called "Don't Check the Box."
Right,
Which is
that's
a
right, yeah.
requirement for employers to give those who have been convicted of
Right.
crimes an opportunity to get back into.
Right,
the
exactly,
workforce.
that was my
And so
question.
that may be
was-
where you were
Yes,
headed with that.
it was.
But as long as there's a state law that requires otherwise, I think you have to obviously.
And when you do background checks, how would you check somebody's background?
There are things out there where you could just do a relatively
Oh,
easy
okay,
check.
so you do something maybe online then,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, based on a level position, I
Sure.
don't spend too much time on.
Okay.
Marty?
I just want to say, for speaking for the election committee, that we really support this. We're very glad that you gave us an oath to sign. We're all happy to do the oath. And this year was the first time we did the disclosure form. We all agree it's a great idea. So thank you for putting it here. Thank you for adopting it. We think it's great. I do have one question, Arthur, about arrests. I teach civil disobedience. I have a long history of being arrested at some of the finest addresses in Washington, from the Supreme Court to the White House. Always nonviolent, very principled and ethical. Haven't been arrested lately.
But it's on your record.
Well,
And you
I think there was
could you be a
convenience.
contractor to Martin's Edition?
They actually get a raise because they're.
No, because she's the elections committee chairwoman.
You know, it's like discommoding, I think, was the charge last time, because I was blocking a driveway at a military base. And it was $50. So I don't think there's actually any record of it. You know, I think it gets, but I just want to say that when we're talking about don't check the box, given the current political climate in our location, we may in fact have a number of residents who are joining me.
Well,
in
you
sitting
are
on
always
sidewalks.
entitled to ask if that pops up, what was the nature of the.
Exactly. It's always been very principled and highly ethical.
So there's that- you check that box, that's it, was this a principled crime?
Right.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is policy number 2019-10-2.
And there should be a resolution as well.
The resolution's the
The last
same.
page says an oath of an executive officer. Who would be an executive officer?
We have one.
Actually,
No,
No, that's
you're
not.
not?
no.
So
I'm
we
gonna
have
let
a couple.
The
Ron
tree
jump in.
supervisor.
Tree supervisor.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're the executive officer?
No,
Not
because there's
the
a committee members too.
So this is, Ron, I'll let you explain.
Yeah, Ron, why don't you
My
explain this?
simple
I thought
understanding of
James
the
was our
No,
executive
see,
officer.
there's another one for an employee.
Yeah,
Then there's one
executive
for the,
officer is a term that's in state law.
oh,
So
okay.
that's why.
and then the next one is for oath of committee and board member, which is the CEC elections and ethics.
Okay,
And then there is a person who is like our tree supervisor, Paula, who, or someone similar to that. That was one that she would have to sign.
so
So
what,
the tree supervisor is a office that's created by our code. And it's an executive office. That was the best way I could think to entitle
Okay.
or title the oath. 'Cause
Okay.
we started out with an oath for committee members,
right,
but we don't have a tree supervisor committee. We just have one office created by code.
So is
Okay.
it possible
So-
to clarify that to say like such as?
We can
Well,
put it
there's
as
a blank line.
Can we
on
put it as
that
a
oath.
footnote or something, Ron?
The
Because,
footnote
and the
is fine
reason
now.
Ron was,
Okay.
wanted executive officer was, because there is opportunities in our code for us to
No,
add other
that's-
people.
And that's fine. I just
Okay.
like when that question
Paula.
comes up, I want
That's
the
the
form
old one.
itself
This is-
to answer the question.
these-
right, I get, I
These
get.
are all new.
Right, and I guess
Okay.
wrong too.
Yeah, so
They
yeah,
came up
frankly,
with this.
because
These
that's
are
our
all
only
there, so
one,
we'll
we
get you
could
signed
just
a new
put tree supervisor and eliminate the blank, and if we ever create another
Okay,
office, then,
okay, good.
yeah. Okay.
So I'm gonna move that we adopt the policy
Well,
clarifying.
It's actually, there should be a resolution.
Did I know? Is it not included?
No,
Did you send it? I thought you sent it.
so we just need to introduce the resolution.
Can we go get it?
Is the resolution number the same as the policy number?
It's on the agenda. It's resolution number 2019-10-2.
Okay,
Which is
Okay,
the
'cause
same
it's
as the
listed
policy.
yeah.
Right. We can go print it
Okay.
off. Can we go print it off?
No,
Okay,
no,
so.
we're fine.
we can just introduce it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Resolution 2019-10-2. Anyone want a second?
So, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, again, people will have time to comment. Okay, the next one, discussion of and possible introduction of ordinance regarding to accessory dwelling units. Susan?
Okay, so we discussed this last time. It's an ordinance that would conform Martin's Edition's code to provide for accessory dwelling units as permitted by the state. It addresses setbacks and provides that any accessory dwelling unit needs 2 dedicated on-site parking spaces. What else, Ron? I think that's
And
there
that-
are various setback requirements.
Yes, and that a permit would be required for construction related to an accessory dwelling unit, including interior construction in an existing building or construction of a brand new detached structure.
So we talked about this a little bit last meeting, and we had to get some counsel and executive session after that meeting. I know that Arthur has raised a couple.
Yes,
One-
and if I could just
Yeah,
jump
go
in
ahead.
there.
Yeah.
So Arthur suggested some amendments, which I thought were very good. I'm gonna pass out a revised draft based on Arthur's comments. Okay, that would have been faster, wouldn't it?
Okay, oh, this is the old one, okay.
Yes. So Arthur suggested a definition of dwelling unit. That's been added to the top of your page 5. And to the top of page 6, just a typo, changing the number 6 to the letter L. Everything else remains as the prior draft provided. And the definition is derived from the Montgomery County Code.
County code.
Okay. We have a question, Sally?
Is this on the Martin Division's website so that residents can read what it's?
Yes, it's part of the meeting packet. We can give you a copy of it
But
tonight.
not this one, he just,
Oh,
There's
this
a
new.
last small minor
So
amendment.
we'll add the one that Ron just gave us, but yes, the bulk of it is there. He added a definition and fixed a numbering error. That's the only difference. Okay,
Good.
so Arthur, do you?
Yeah, no, this is fine. In fact, so a dwelling unit includes at a minimum facilities for cooking, sanitation, and sleeping. So that's,
I cannot house more than one family unit.
Correct. Yeah, and in a nutshell, the key is if there's a range, a stove, an oven, then it's regulated as a second household.
okay. So did we introduce it last week or no?
No, no,
Oh, because we held it back.
that's
So
right.
let's introduce. So I will then move to introduce ordinance number 2019-9-1.
I'll
As
second.
amended. Okay,
As
all
amended, right.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. And this one will have, again, a hearing at our next meeting. Residents should review.
No, yeah, let me check the calendar. So our November meeting,
21st.
17, 20, so it's more than 30
okay,
days.
so we have enough time. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next, the memorandum of understanding Montgomery County debris management plan. So, Ron,
Sure.
we have to.
So in yeah.
Well, do you want me to jump in there?
Sure, go ahead.
So in regards to discussion of this particular management plan, the county needs to have agreements with all local jurisdictions in order for the jurisdiction to take advantage of any presidential declaration. And we have to have an MOU in place. The discussion is being brought up because right now Montgomery County and the jurisdictions are trying to hammer out the final MOU, so it's not quite ready yet. We've met, I went to the meeting, and there were some issues at some of the smaller jurisdictions, Village of Martin Tradition, Glen Echo, raised, and so they're trying to hammer out a final one, and then once we all agree on the final one, then I'll be able to bring it back and introduce it. So that's where we are right now.
Are we gonna get jammed on a timeline to
The
sign that?
deadline for the MOU is the 18th, which is tomorrow. After tomorrow, by next week, we should have a finite MOU, and I'll be able to bring it back to your Ron, and then we'll be able to introduce it, I guess, next month.
Oh.
Okay?
Do
So
we-
it's not ready to be introduced?
No,
right now?
like I
Okay.
said,
The county's
the
not done.
county
County
and the
hasn't
local
finished.
jurisdictions are still hammering out the
Okay.
details of how they wanna approach this.
Okay.
And if we do at the next meeting, we're not gonna be too late.
No, we're not, because I've indicated that we're interested, we're gonna sign it, once you've decided how you want it to
Right.
look, let me
Right.
know, we'll sign it, we'll move forward.
Yeah. that's
Ron
right.
is on board because,
Right.
I had to get
Everyone
him to
is.
look at it.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone's in the same boat.
Right, all my other clients are looking at it, and as James noted, there's a deadline of tomorrow to let the county know you want in.
Oh.
But then the county's not actually looking for the signed MOUs until the end of the calendar year.
Oh, okay. Good.
Okay, so we'll just keep tracking that. Okay, so public hearing on the ordinance number 20-09-3 and resolution 2019-09-04 to adopt reasonable accommodation processing procedures. We will have, this is what we introduced last meeting, but we don't have the 30 days in between, so we're doing a hearing today in case anybody has anything they want to say. And then a hearing again next month in case anybody has anything.
Okay.
Anybody, any comments? No? Okay, Ron, do you have to memorialize that any more than that?
No, I'll just note though that because this ordinance involves amendment of our building regulations, under state law, we have to give the county council notice and an opportunity to comment, and I received a comment from Jeff Zients, who's the legislative attorney for the county council, who said that in his opinion, it's an appropriate amendment to meet the requirement of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Good,
Oh, that's
okay,
great.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Good.
so next,
Okay.
public hearing on ordinance regarding private trees that fall into the public right-of-way. And again, this is one that we introduced last meeting. We'll have a hearing on it now, we'll have a hearing on it next month, and hopefully be able to wrap it up then. Arthur?
Yeah, this deals with trees, private trees that fall across the public right-of-way, and who's responsible for clearing and who will pay for it. And the relevant paragraph reads, "The owner of property on which is located any tree or shrub near a public right-of-way shall periodically inspect the health of the vegetation. In the event of a tree or shrub or branch shall fall into a public right-of-way, the village shall remove the fallen vegetation, and the owner shall be responsible for removing that portion which falls on the owner's private property." Now, the problem is that sometimes it pays to just take the whole thing away, then who pays for it? And so the next sentence is, "The village and the owner may reach an agreement as to the cost sharing for the removal. If no agreement is reached, the village shall remove only that portion of the vegetation that has fallen into the right-of-way." So it's like, if you don't agree, we're only gonna clear off the sidewalk, you're responsible for the rest. So,
Ron gave us a lot of history on relevant state law, et cetera.
and the fact that we had a tree across the street from you that triggered this whole thing.
3408 Turner.
Okay, it's all on me.
Yeah.
It's- But a question, we've also had a tree in our yard that fell on a neighbor's house.
That's your problem.
No.
Oh.
But what I'm saying is that they took care of that all because it wasn't considered our issue. So this is different. What you're saying here is that only the portion that's on public property, so it's not fully
Right.
the public issue.
Right.
It's divided based on.
Yeah. Yeah.
We may reach an agreement.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
any other comments on that? No? Okay, annual survey results.
All right. So, the annual survey, closed last night at midnight. It was open for 13 days, which is just slightly under what it has been open, for in the past. We generally try to target 2 weeks, so it was 15 days on average in the past. It was 13 days this year. With that said, the response rate has come down quite a bit. We have only had 31 fully completed responses to
I
the
thought
survey.
there was, wasn't there more than your preliminary one?
There was 39 before you've entered
Mhm.
the two paper ones. So actually, I will amend that 31 to 33, you said there were two. But they were not completed, which means that if you were logging into the system and
Oh.
got stuck on question 4, you had an incomplete response on that attempt.
Right,
Presumably, you've gone in again
yeah,
and submitted a full response.
Yeah.
So if we're counting only completed responses, meaning you've selected your street,
Uh-huh.
that would be 33.
Okay.
And this actually does not account for the 2 additional ones.
It does not, it does not, it didn't collect, when I went in and did it, they didn't get counted, but we can always add, I have their responses and we can add them to the back page if you want.
So there's a caveat here that I guess our numbers are slightly skewed because of that. But if we look at question number 1, overall, how satisfied are you with village operations? We generally have a positive response, consistent with prior years, so nothing to point out here. Question 2 was on the response rates, if residents contacted the village office. I see a bit of a decline in response times here that we have not seen in the past, so that's just something to look into for us. Same question for the village council, seems fairly consistent with prior years. Then there's a question about enforcement of building codes and whether they've been fair and effective. What surprised me here is that there were 4 negative responses here. Considering the low response rates to the survey as a whole, that's a noticeable percentage that we have not seen in the past. Something to look into again. So it closed just last night. We didn't have really an opportunity to dig into this, but it is there. The question on whether the 2019 election was conducted in a fair, open manner. There were a couple of people who said no, and judging by the comments in the text responses, it was because my and Richard's flyers were combined together. And
Saying that again?
it was perceived that when Richard and I were running for re-election, because we were running as a slate, it was not liked by those 2 people. So there was not necessarily a ding on what the election committee is doing. It was just a comment.
Let me comment on that. We did, the election committee, look into the legality of running as a slate,
Mm-hmm.
and it's absolutely your legal right to do so. It's a violation of constitutional right of freedom of speech to prohibit people from running as a slate. So the election committee did investigate that, and the answer was absolutely clear,
Right.
that candidates have the right to run as a slate as they choose.
Thank you, Marty. I just wanted you to be aware that that negative is not because of your work.
We work hard to keep it clean.
You do. And so the next question was whether the process of voting was easy in 2019 election, and 100% of respondents said yes. There was a good amount of responses to which events folks participated in, and it seems like they were spread fairly evenly, if you see on the screen there. Interest in all of the
But the
events.
celebration on sidewalk was the most
Yes.
popular one,
It is, it's great.
yeah.
The question on which other events the village, actually, I'll touch a little bit on the text responses in a second here. In closing of just these summarized kind of bar chart responses, there were 3 streets that had no responses: Melville, Oxford, and Taylor.
That's not true.
Yeah, I
So maybe
think
we have an
that,
issue
So
with the
there's an
survey.
issue with the survey.
yeah, I'm wondering if we
I
got all
actually
the
did
results
survey.
in,
I can attest
yeah.
that that is wrong.
I'm glad we have the street question in.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
glad
Because
too.
that proves
There's
that.
something funny going on there,
So we really should look into that.
yeah.
What happened, because that's such a significant drop off. I mean, 80% decline is not normal,
Yeah,
right?
it isn't, no, it
People
isn't.
didn't just stop caring
People
about
had-
what goes on in their
And we
village.
know,
I
and
think
here
it-
we have we know that,
Yeah, and I
There's
think
a
a couple people
discrepancy.
had tried to link and it didn't work.
yeah, I was trying several times.
So maybe there's logs that Constant Contact has, and we can look into
I
that.
wonder if there were different logins. You get a different compilation for each login address.
That's something we'll definitely have to look into. I will
Yeah.
tell you that every time Tina and I sent the survey with the link out,
Yeah.
it worked out fine. Somehow, when it hit the Constant Contact and went through, it did not work.
So
So,
you guys.
So not to
What?
necessarily
Could it be
take time.
browser related, depending on what browser someone.
You know, I've tried,
So let's not
Two or
solve for
three
this issue
different-
now.
yeah,
If
I
we know
tried
that there's
three
an
different
issue, we'll
browsers.
take time offline out of this
Right.
meeting to try to identify an issue.
Okay.
When I saw the numbers, it shocked me how much the
Yeah,
numbers
I
declined.
think
So it
there's
makes
a-
sense if,
there's a problem there.
I hope it was a technology issue and not
Mhm.
people not responding. There are texts, let's see, I've circled some that I wanted to bring up. When we asked the question about the budget being spent on various services, there were a lot of responses supporting composting service, which is good. It's consistent with prior year's responses where a lot of the village was interested in that service. There were also some, as always, on requesting increasing police patrols and possibly shoveling sidewalks for the elderly, as we've done in the past. We know it's a very, very expensive service, but as I've noted in prior years, it's still something that folks remember and appreciated in prior years, and they continue to raise that.
Mhm.
One comment got my attention because it's a safety issue. Repair sidewalks on Brookville Road. So that's something that we'll need to look into to see if there is a safety hazard on the sidewalk there. Let's see, on the building codes, there were 3 write-in responses. 2 said that the building codes seem excessive, and 1 said that they seem too loose.
Seem too loose.
Yes. Communication seems to be the right amount. People don't wanna see necessarily anything additional. Let's see. For the events, somebody wanted, there were only 3 write-ins again. One person wanted extra adult events, really liked the spring fling, but they weren't in town, but just loved the idea. One more person wanted block parties so that it's a smaller gathering and they're able to interact with their immediate neighbors better. And the third person asked for something for teens.
For what?
Teens.
For teens.
So we have something for kids, we have something for
Right.
adults,
Not the in-betweens.
not the in-betweens.
Okay.
Alright. And, okay, so one person commented on the snow removal contract. And again, I'm just raising this for information purposes, so when we consider these things in the future, so that everybody's aware that somebody did make a comment. So this is about plowing, asking the snow contractor to not plow the snow into driveways.
Oh,
So they have to dig out. I don't know if that's possible, but I'm raising that.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Who on the council is responsible for that contract?
snow?
We don't have a council member assigned to
I
it.
think you came down when I objected to the problem apparently, and I just don't want that to happen again.
Yes. So I think last year you had a concern about how the street was plowed.
Yeah.
And we did have a sit down with our contractor last year. As you know, their contract had been in place for 3 years. And it was put out for bid again this year. So we will see how that process goes once we make a new selection. And then once we make a new selection, I think the plan would be to go down the streets with the contractor, whoever it is that's selected, and make sure that we're very clear on parking sides of the street and how to plow curb across. Yes.
The one last thing that I did not raise here, I didn't circle it, but it wasn't here, about the one resident wanted a no parking sign that apparently has been approved but not installed.
if they did not provide a location, and in my report, I'm gonna go over transportation, and it will be raised at that time.
Can I make a comment about shoveling?
Yes.
I am elderly, but I don't have a dog in this fight because I don't have a sidewalk. on my side of the street. So, in the past, long ago, when that was done by the village, the age of the elderly was much higher than it has been now. And I understand there was some discussion about the fact that there were 65-year-olds who were perfectly capable of shoveling their own sidewalk, and yet they were taking advantage of this. And you could, it seems to me that you could deal with that by making the age limit higher. I shovel our walk until, I'm not gonna do it next year. I have turned 80, I'm not gonna do it next year. But it seems to me that the age limit could easily be 75. That is just something for you to consider.
Thank you. All right. Anything else in the survey?
That's it.
Okay.
So I think the next steps here are important to discuss. So we'll look into the issues and investigate what
there
could have
should
gone
be
wrong.
more.
I will ask
Yeah.
either you, James, or Tina to send out a message out to the village, asking if anyone from the 3 streets that it looks like did not answer submitted surveys, so we have more test cases to investigate.
We can target those 3 streets.
Yes, because I mean, such a clean cut, right? There's not a single response there. And then we'll take it from there. And so we'll report back on at the November meeting what we found out.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, we'll have to run it again, right? If we know that it just didn't work and there's no record of responses.
Thank you very much. All right, Arthur.
I got sent.
Yes.
Okay, treasury report. The main thing here is that the auditors sent in a final accounting for the fiscal year that ended June 30th. We had already, I thought we were done with it in July, but apparently between July and a few weeks ago, more bills had come in. So we ended up with spending more than had been budgeted on a number of accounts, usually by small amounts, about $100.
On accounts, not the overall budget.
Not the overall budget, we underspent by $112,000.
That's important, yes.
Yes.
Thank you for
So,
breaking that.
so, but on a handful of accounts, after the bills had come in, I saw there were some that we were like 103, 105. There was 1 or 2 bigger ones. One that had completely missed all of us was snow plowing, where we were $7,000 over budget for months. I went back to check to see, did this just come in, a late bill or something? Well, it was there the whole time. Somehow just missed it. So I have a list of items here, and we typically will move funds from a underspending account, and there, as I said, we have 112,000 altogether, to cover the overspending. And I have a list here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 separate items, and there are 2 big accounts we can take the money from. Let me just mention, officer furniture and equipment, we underspent by almost
Office?
15,000
So the office
this year.
furniture.
Office
What's that?
furniture.
Office furniture and equipment. We bought a lot of stuff last year, but this year we did. And the other is Pepco. Since we put in the LED lights, our electric bill has gone way down.
The streetlights.
The street
Just to
lights.
clarify, not these in this
Right.
office.
These are,
Yes.
so we saved a lot of money there. And so it turns out that the investment in the LED streetlights will pay off in a few years. So it was a good deal. So we have these items that we need a resolution to move the fund from the indicated budget categories to the ones that I show here.
And Arthur, this will be the closeout.
This is final.
Because the auditors have
The
done.
auditors have come through, this is the end. If you have a bill, an invoice you haven't sent in, it'll go in the next fiscal year.
So Ron, Arthur needs to make a motion.
Yes. And because it involves the reappropriation of
It's a-
funds, we need a
okay.
supermajority, so you will all have to vote in favor, or it won't
Okay.
pass.
that's right, we need a majority here, more than a majority.
Supermajority.
So I will move that we budget the funds in budget items 50/50, 50/80, 51/10, 52/40, 53/51, 54/25, 55/15, 55/20, and 55/30, for the amounts indicated, to cover the unexpected expenditures.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No. Okay.
Good. I would say this is the first time that we've had this kind of discrepancy between the last months of data and then the auditors coming in and
And for a fiscal year that started in July, so
Yeah.
we're talking about discrepancies from June, May, April, March into last year. And another just reason as to why we're trying to move some of that work over into the cloud and QuickBooks and the office. All right,
Okay.
we're now on to the manager's report. James.
Really quickly, I won't take up too much of your time. The survey is complete. It did have its hiccups, but once Katia gives us direction as to what we're gonna do next. we
So
Check-
we're gonna
check
email
into it.
the 3 streets that did not have any responses
Correct.
and a request, if anybody is willing to come forward to say, I have submitted a survey, and will help us figure out
What to do next.
what is.
And there may be, and I would go, was it constant contact on which it was
Yes.
done?
Yeah.
If we could talk to somebody there to find out whether
I think that
they're,
a call is definitely needed.
yeah.
Yeah.
There may have been different links that people linked into it, and so we may be getting the results from one link and not from the others.
Will do. Let's see. Marty chimed in on the vacancy announcement that has been sent. We sent it via UPS and via email. The snowing plowing contracts, excuse me. The ending date is tomorrow. So if anybody's interested in the snow contract, you have until 5 p.m. tomorrow. Archiving is still moving according to plan. All the boxes that you do not see have been reviewed and have been looked at. The next phase of the project is 6 cabinet drawers, and Tina is on top of that. The anticipation date of that being completed is November, hopefully by the November meeting, which is November 21st. The office will be closed on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2019. Brookville Commercial District burglaries. I know Officer Nick talked about that. However, I've been in conversation with ADT, and I won't tell you where they are, but there are 6 cameras that have been installed around the building, along with sirens. So if they do go off, that there's a burglary technically in progress. But there are 6 cameras that surround the building, and I know where they are, but I won't
Have
tell
we
you.
confirmed that the lighting is sufficient?
I have reached out to them, and they have not indicated that we need to adjust our street lighting. They seem
Okay.
to be, the way the cameras are working, they're night vision, and apparently it can be pitch black and you can still see who it is. So, but they have not requested us to increase our street lighting.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, the community garden. So here is an issue I know that we've talked about extensively. I am hesitant of moving forward without getting a firm cap number from the council on how much we want to spend on phase 3. So I've put that on hold because as I look at the budget and as I look at where this funding going to come from, how much do you guys want to spend or not spend? And then we also have to deal with the end of the dead end at
Raymond.
Raymond. So these are 2 projects that could cost $5,000, $7,000, $8,000. I need a cap number, and I need to know where you want the funds to go before I move anything forward to that. So I put a pause on the community garden for right now. I could easily, turn it over tomorrow or next week, and whoever we pick will.
So we have
Didn't the builder
required,
volunteer to pay
he,
for it?
he volunteered to give us a bench.
Okay.
So we agreed on requirements for what would go in the community
Right.
garden,
Mhm.
and we've gotten the amount of space that we have to work with for the
Correct.
dead end of Raymond.
For those who don't know, it's 1,000 square feet. It's not only the corner, but it also abuts all the way down to the next property on Brookfield. So it's a lot larger than you think it
Okay.
is.
So, since I am not an expert in native plants, planting, seasonal, all of the above, or what would be the right shrub or tree, what I would like to do is put it out there, as we discussed before.
Okay.
Get bids. We have requirements,
Uh-huh.
parameters of
Yep,
people supposed
we
to
do.
order. Put it out there for people to bid on.
Okay.
When they come back, then you can sit down, present to the council, here's what you've given back to me
Mhm.
that should fit within all of the parameters that
Okay.
we've given.
All right.
Same thing for the Raymond Dead End.
Okay.
And then we can make a decision about.
That works
what
for
to
me.
do.
But like I said, I just didn't.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
all right.
I'm not sitting on a pot of gold here, and I just didn't want to
Right.
put money out. I mean, put something out. I realized we had the parameters, and I just didn't want to put it out. Like,
If you do find a pot of gold, do share.
I didn't hear you.
If you
If you
find,
find a pot of gold, do
Yes.
share.
Yeah.
it's gonna be in one of the 6 drawers. that
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Dark spots and street lamps. Marty. We have. Well, let me back up a little bit. Each new street lamp is going to be $2,800. The installation will be $800, for a grand total of $3,600 for each new replacement. We have 3 that are immediate, meaning they're old and they didn't. I don't know why, but they didn't get replaced on the first go around.
So you and I need to do a walk around.
Right.
Now is probably a great time to do it because we can see it now, and in a week
Oh,
or
baby.
two, it will be gone, and we can do it again and still have fresh memories. So
I was going to say that, but I'll let. I was. If you read, it says okay.
Okay.
So that's where we are with that. The Chevy Chase Johnson Field, that's pretty self-explanatory. They're almost finished with that. Traffic control. So Joe Cutro and Wayne have installed a number of different street signs. The reason that I'm bringing it up now is because they were actually done today. The reason why the delay was because Joe Cutro couldn't find staffing. He literally could not find anybody to help him. So I
So
dispatched
Wayne
Wayne to help him so we can get all of these done. So the no parking signs, the dead end at, I think it's Raymond. Bradley. That's been done. All the fences have been painted, and everything else is pretty much done. The fire hydrants that that are not in a dead end, the yellow signs, they've been removed or they're going to be removed, but a lot of them have been removed. All the candy canes for the entire village have been installed on all the fire hydrants. Community events. Of course, we're having a Halloween parade and celebration. That's October 31st at Chevy Chase. Everything else is pretty much self-explanatory. I do want to comment that when the utilities do follow-up work on a previous job, they do not have to contact us. They can just go out and do the job and repair it, and then, because I keep getting comments about why are they there, it's because they're doing follow-up on a previous job. Now, if they're doing something major and they need to schedule it with us, that's different. But if they're going
Let's
back,
use our government relations people and ask them like, hey, as a courtesy, it would be nice if you gave us.
and
some
the email was, we don't have to tell you, but in the future we've tried to, but they pretty much told us that when they're doing routine follow-up work, so if they do a patch, plug it up, and they need to come back over and smooth it over again, they'll just come out and do it. And the rationale is that repave it's like half a day, so it's not that big of a deal to them. To them. And I do believe that is it. Your building permit schedule is attached. This is a course introduced a couple of months ago, and it gives you an update on the construction projects that are here going on in the village. The highlighted one was the one that was expired, and as previously reported by Doug, the person did submit an extension, and so that is where we are.
Is it my impression, are there fewer outstanding permits now?
That is
going
correct.
down?
And we don't have, the projects that we have now are minor. They're
Right.
deck here, driveway there,
Okay.
things of that nature. But nothing, I mean, once those two
Just
houses.
wait.
I'm
Just
sorry.
wait.
Well,
yeah.
right now.
Ebbs and flows.
Just wait.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
Okay. All right,
That's it?
thank you,
That's all
James.
she wrote.
Uh,
Does anybody have any
other-
questions?
Nope. Other
Okay.
resident comments for the closing? Paul?
Yeah, Paula Goldberg, Bradley Lane, tree supervisor. I've just got a quick question for you, James.
Executive.
Have you ordered the Tree City USA signs yet? We had talked about
I'm glad you brought that up.
getting maybe 4 of them and.
Yeah. So I talked
So
to Joe.
that's on me. I will take responsibility for that. We saw, James brought in a few of the signs, or showed me pictures of what the signs would be, and I think we need to have a discussion
Well-
amongst the council. Hang on, what,
The design committee?
the design committee, but also it's I didn't ask Ron this issue, but I need to. How many signs, where would we all put them up? Is that an administrative issue or a policy issue? There are those that are, Joe is adamant that we should not be putting them all over the village at every entrance to every street. Others folks have said, well, why would you not do it? I don't know the appropriate venue, so I apologize. The last email I got from you was, hey, here's what Joe Kutro is.
Yeah, Joe
So,
Kutro is not.
Isn't he the walkability study?
No.
He's
He's
the
the
traffic
traffic
engineer.
Oh, the traffic engineer.
Traffic
okay.
engineer. His belief is that as people drive through the city, the less signs that are up, the better off, because then they're not looking at their phone, they're looking at signs, and so they get distracted.
I mean, it's it's an award that we've gotten that we worked for.
Yes.
Other Chevy Chase neighborhoods have their signs up and have room for them. It would be nice if we could celebrate our recognition.
Could it be
in some
attached
way.
to the Village of Martin's Edition sign?
So that was one option. I don't
Yeah.
know the appropriate way to, you can tell us if we can have this conversation right now.
Yes, you can have the conversation right now, and I think it should be open.
Okay. So one of the responses to Joe's concern, which we have a sign clutter, question, how many signs are we putting up? Are we putting them on every street as we enter and exit, or do they just go on one side? I asked the same question, okay, we've got 2 signs that are nice signs. Can we get a thing that has the Tree City USA emblem that says, Tree City USA, and hang it under the Martin's Edition signs, so that it's
Yeah.
attached to our entry signs.
Right,
if
so you
will,
know
to
where
the
you are.
neighborhood. If you say that we can have the discussion, then
Yeah,
great.
it sounds like a reasonable thing. Martin's Edition, Tree City. And
I
it
don't-
kind
And,
of-
I
and
know we're
having
just
it
bringing it up.
attached won't interfere with sight lines for
No, because it would go
driving. It'll
underneath
go- And
those.
those are far enough back from the corner
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they won't impede or obstruct
Sounds
views,
good to
so.
me.
Now, keep in mind, the
Wow.
signs that Paula is speaking about, I'm not sure that they're quite gonna go well with the.
No.
Right, so we're
We
gonna
would
create.
take the Tree
right.
City
Mhm.
USA, it's
I mean,
a,
it's a branded sign,
Mhm.
and I you might wanna defer to, or call other Chevy Chase sections that have qualified for it and see how they deal with it. I don't think, I find them distracting only because I like to see where other jurisdictions
Right.
have placed them. But I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel here. I think that there's a way to do it, and a tasteful way to do it, and a way that doesn't have to distract. And I think it would be nice for us to, as I said, celebrate
the reception of the.
celebrate this accomplishment.
Thank you. Marty?
I just want to chime in. I like seeing the sign there by Chestnut Street, and I think it serves as a reminder to people to take care of the trees. A couple of my neighbors did not water their village trees, and, they died. And so I think that having that on more streets, I like the idea of putting it on the 2 main signs, but having it like where you turn onto Chestnut Street, it's a psychological reminder to take care of and value the fact that we have.
Maybe
a
the
tree
common
canopy.
back entrances.
Yeah, it's not blocking any stop signs or anything, it's not clutter, and it makes me smile when I see it.
Yeah.
And Lord knows we need a smile.
Yes. Thank you.
May I?
Yep.
So Joe has submitted a list of possible locations. It's about 6. He's not real happy with it, but he said if you had to put them,
Right.
but
Which
yeah.
again,
He's a-
I will.
Well,
He's
just
a
to be
traffic-
clear,
he's a traffic purist.
I think I must have misheard you. I thought you said he was concerned that people would be looking at signs and not paying attention to their phones.
Correct. I mean, yeah, I
No.
was joking. I was joking.
Because,
I was joking.
I think we could maybe.
I was joking. We were
Yeah.
on piggybacking off of Nick.
Right.
Right.
I'll take this offline.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's not a big deal.
Okay.
four signs aren't really gonna be.
Tiffany, I've got one last comment.
Yes, sir.
It's a question. Who would you consider to be a crossing guard? And how many crossing guards do you need?
So that was something that I was thinking about while he was here, and I wanna find out, we also have restrictions because it's a state highway. And so, I don't know that we could privately contract somebody who wasn't a sworn law enforcement officer to be on the state
I
highway.
think you know where I'm going on
Yes,
this.
yes, sir.
Would you
Okay.
like to be a crossing guard?
Oh, yeah, I could use the money.
I was,
I'll be quite frank with you on that, and you can count on me, like, you know,
You look really good in a nice.
Sunrises.
you have to wear one of those belts.
that's good, that's.
You have to resign your high-paying position on the CEC, though.
I don't want any conflict of interest.
That's the chairman of the ethics committee.
Before.
Okay, all right,
I think
so
this meeting is
on
running
that,
down.
we're going to, I need to make a motion to go into closed session in accordance with section 3-305B1 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss personnel matters that affect one or more specific individual. Somebody make a motion?
I'll
Oh.
motion.
Second? All in favor?
Good luck.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.